In today's episode, Mike and I talk about how we got surprised at birthday parties in our past, and also, most importantly, how to open the dance floor. And then it really gets sideways, and we even talk about how we close the dance floor. So tune in.
Tonight's DJ and TV show is sponsored in part by Electro Voice, DJ Event Planner, ADJ, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, Newmark, and DJ and TV Insiders.
Welcome, everybody, to the PhDJ Podcast. My name is Mike.
It's Joe Bunn with
And
special guest.
We have our first special guest, Mitch. Should I do another drum roll?
Sure.
That sounded good last week.
Sounds pretty good, yeah.
It was the only part of last week's show that sounded good, by the way.
Wow.
Our special guest, Mitch Taylor. Say hello to everybody, Mitch.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me as your first guest. This is awesome.
Dude, thank you for being on. We reached out to a few people in the industry about a month ago and said, would you be a guest? And you were one of the first to reply, and it worked out well. So we are honored not only to have you, but to have you as our first guest. So thank you.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Mike and Joe.
Making history today.
How is the weather up in the Upper Peninsula?
Upper Peninsula weather is good today.
Has it broken 50 degrees yet?
Oh, yeah. Sunny and 75 or 70 something right now. It's
that's
not too
nice.
bad. Not too bad.
I got a chance to visit with Mitch after the last show I spoke at, Midwest DJs Live. Mitch took me up to his place, and when I say up, I do mean up, and up and up. I don't know that you described the drive precisely to me when I signed on for that day.
I said 4 hours.
But you know what's a sign of a good friendship? It didn't seem like a 4-hour drive, right?
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, we chatted most of the way, and you got to point out some things. But yeah, man, you were up there, and you are one of those people now. When I hear people in the industry say, "Well, you can do it in New Jersey because you've got such a big population," and Joe, you can do it in North Carolina. It would never work in my market. And I go, screw that. Mitch Taylor lives in a desolate part of this country and still has a thriving and successful business. So
this podcast is sponsored by visitescanaba.org.
Yes. Well, no, desolate. It's beautiful. Right. I like desolate. Kelly and I just got back from Iceland.
That's true. This dude spent 2 weeks in Iceland, dude.
I don't look at I like desolate. It's kind of cool, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how are you doing, Joe?
I'm good, brother, man.
Last week, did you get a lot of negative feedback on last week's show?
No.
Everyone was dead.
I think everybody, there was a lot of
bummer, dude.
Let's
not do any more shows like that.
No,
and then the day we launched it, Anthony Bourdain
died.
kills himself.
Yeah,
so
that was not good.
It was such a heavy weekend for me. I really was like,
Yeah.
I was so glad Mitch was going to be on this week. I'm like, we can lighten the mood.
It's much lighter today.
Yeah,
it's much lighter. I got a little bit of flack for it, but we got to prepare the listeners, man. You got to cover all the topics.
It is. It's one of those topics that needs to be covered.
Exactly. No,
I think it's a very important topic, and I'm glad you guys covered it last week.
See?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not this week.
Not this week. No.
Not this
Thanks
week.
for talking about it this week.
This is Taylor's week.
So we have a guest. So let's talk about our guest. So first of all, Mitch, I just noticed the big announcement that you are speaking Brisbane.
Actually, it's going to be Adelaide. I'm speaking in Australia. DJ.
I should have been brought in a bigger. Yeah. Okay, you're speaking in Australia. Tell us all about that.
So I'm speaking at the DJAA conference in Adelaide, Australia, upcoming. I love their tagline. Their tagline is "It starts with us."
Oh wow, I love that.
I just think that's brilliant tagline.
I just changed my business card. Hold on, I'm writing it.
And the folks at DJAA are very hospitable. They're growing their own industry down in Australia. They're trying to come together, brothers and sisters, put some things together. They had some great content over the years. I know Bill Herman spoke. My podcast partner, Vicky Musney, spoke last year. And they've got some other announcements coming up. I believe they're going to be back in either Brisbane or Sydney next year. But they tried something new this year in Adelaide, Australia. and looking forward to making the
When
trip.
is that, Mitch?
The conference is August 6th.
Oh, wow. This year. I got you. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I take that back. My workshop is August 6th. The conference is August 7th and August 8th.
That's great.
So
Man.
I'll be kicking off the conference on August 7th. They got people speaking on, I believe they have a lawyer speaking this year. They have someone speaking on, of course, mixing music and mixing in key they've had in the past. And so it should be a great conference for all involved.
That's
so people who want to attend, how could they get more information and
I believe it's
do you know the website?
DJAA.au.org or DJAA.org. Just search DJAA, you'll find it.
Very cool.
Yeah, Serge and Glenn and the staff down there, and Billy James is our host this year. He's their DJ on the ground in Adelaide, and so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations on that booking, man. That is,
thanks.
I have my first international speaking engagement next year, and I'm looking forward to it. And you're turning this into a kind of mini vacation.
I was about to say, who else
Yeah.
gets to go to this?
Yeah, my wife.
Okay, smart man.
Very much looking forward to that. Yeah,
Yes.
Sydney. We'll be in Sydney for a couple days. We'll be in Brisbane for a couple days, and then we'll head over to Adelaide. It's about a 2.5, 3 hour flight, I think, from Brisbane down to Adelaide. So
nice. Well, kudos to you.
Who keeps the kids when y'all roll out like that?
my wife's parents will be taking our
Wow.
kids for that time frame. So we're lucky it's summer break. We
Super lucky.
thought about bringing them.
Woo!
We thought about bringing them.
No.
I'm like, they
Well,
were-
you just brought them to Hawaii, right?
Exactly.
What-
Exactly.
I saw that
Yeah,
trip.
no.
I saw that trip.
Hawaii,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, nah, man. Come
Yeah.
on.
my kids
You've done your thing, man. You've done your thing.
can't be that spoiled.
So, well, real quick though, Mitch, just for somebody like me that barely gets to leave my zip code, how did you land that speaking gig?
I think it's all about just networking, Mike and Joe. I think that's the real thing, the networking side of things. I know Bill Herman last year put in a good word for me.
Yeah.
I know I've had connections with many Australian DJs over the years. Glenn Mackay has taken my workshop a couple times now. We've had Brent Oppeson has been in my workshop. Billy James has been in my workshop. So a few different Aussies have taken my workshop over the years. So that just led to word of mouth conversation. And then they asked and made it work.
One thing led to another.
Yeah.
Same with you, Mike. Was it a networking thing, or did they?
Well, it's funny that you just mentioned Bill Herman. I have been in touch with the people in England. Their show is in Birmingham next March. So I've been in touch with them through the years, but I think Bill Herman helped me close the deal this time around because he spoke there this year, I think. And he mentioned he mentioned me in high regard, and that helped me
box
close
of
the
steaks to Bill Herman.
Bill
Sorry,
Herman.
I got it.
Bill Herman apparently
I
is
just
the
sent him a
connection,
box of
so-
Omaha steaks.
Yeah. So
There you
I don't
go.
know if Bill is a listener to this podcast, but we should both tip our cap and thank him because it's
Y'all
kind of
should.
cool. And Kelly and I are doing the same thing next year. She's joining me in England, and then we've been wanting to get to Amsterdam. So we're going to kind of springboard from there over to Amsterdam for a
Why,
week.
Mike? What's in Amsterdam?
Yeah.
What's in Amsterdam, Mike?
Legal marijuana. No,
I thought you were going to make up something like
Is your
fresh,
trip on April 20th?
fresh fruit
I'm
and
sure.
vegan cheese. He actually
But one of
went-
the things I am looking forward to is apparently they have these almost like Starbucks where you can go in and pick out what
That's
you know.
true. 100%
So
true.
I'm looking forward to that
Nice.
as well as other things.
100%.
So
Mike,
Mike, I'd love to go to England.
oh,
Mike,
okay. I will drop a good. And listen, I'd love to go to Australia. So
Yeah, that's right. I think you're supposed to
I will
plug.
do.
He's asking you to plug him and plug each other in various countries throughout the world.
Hey now.
This is podcast going with mutual plugging.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. What are we doing here?
Well, speaking of education, Mitch, it kind of segues into the next topic. You are one of the most recent graduates of our PhDJ workshop, which was in Vegas.
Yes.
I don't want to, get too deep into that or toot our horn too much, but is there anything you haven't done workshop wise that is kind of on your bucket list? And if not, then kind of run through, some of the things that you have done and maybe just, for the listeners that, because I get that question a lot, Mike, don't you? Mark Farrell's coming to my town. Should I take this? Or, tell me why I should take your guys' workshop or something like that. Just kind of touch on that, Mitch, because I know you're a fan of a workshop and have your own as well, which we'll get into.
I'm a huge fan of workshops. I think in regards to the DJ realm, certainly.
Yeah.
I believe I've taken almost every single workshop that I've seen that's been out there at least once. The only one that I have not taken as of yet, and I do want to take it eventually, is Mark Farrell recently announced an announcing workshop, and I do want to take that at some point. I think he's only had one, maybe two of those so far. So the possibility to take it's been limited so far, but that's one I would want to take eventually. Otherwise than that, I think I've taken every single one that's out there. That being said, I think I would delve more into the speaking realm. I know Michael Port has had a couple retreats, if you will, and I'd be very interested to take one of Michael Port's training sessions up next. It's kind of on my radar for 2019, if you will, and dive into something more in that regard.
Sure. And
what
then,
did Port write? Book Yourself Solid? Is that his book?
Yes, Book Yourself Solid, Beyond Book Yourself Solid, the Contrarian Effect. So
definitely cool.
And PhDJ, honestly, I thought was exceptional. I think I wrote an article in Disc Jockey News about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Afterwards. And again, I had thoroughly enjoyed the content. I thought it was honestly next level stuff, delving more into 201, peeking a little bit into 301, around the corner peeking kind of thing, which I thought was really good. And I would encourage anyone to jump up and take that opportunity for you guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're not looking for a plug here, but thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that.
But
speaking of plugs, why don't you plug your own workshops? You mentioned that. You mentioned that in an answer earlier about people that have taken your workshops. Tell us about those.
So I offer a Sales for Event Pros workshop. Lately, my podcast partner, Vicky, who is a certified personality trainer, has kind of melded into that a little bit, because the first phase in the sales process is search that I teach, and you need to research your client in advance before even having a conversation, or after that you see that initial lead come in, and there's lots of clues you can get from that. So Vicky combines the personality side into it. But we basically walk them through the 5-step process and workshop out each component that is available. So search, approach, learn, explain, solve are the 5 steps that are in the book. And the book is basically
You talking about this book?
That book. Yeah, that book.
I love this book, Mitch.
I
think this book is phenomenal. We're going to talk about this in a little bit more, but since you were mentioning, I wanted to
Great book.
Hold it up.
I rarely read books, but I read that book actually.
Yeah.
Thank you. I need to do the audiobook version, and shame on me for not getting that done yet. Honestly,
yeah.
I sell a
audiobook
good
and a
number
podcast.
of audiobooks of my Running Your Multi-Op, and I would recommend it. And the technology, I mean, you have it. I've been to your office.
I do. Yes.
You have the recording set up. Just it'd probably take you a day and a half to just sit there and read your own book, and then just edit it down. So you should take the time to do it.
I should just sit down and crank that out.
Yeah, make it a goal.
They crank that out joke.
Look at Mitch cracking himself up.
That crank that out joke in Midwest DJ's Live.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't even a joke. It was just a slip of the tongue, by the way.
that opportunity just presented itself.
It really did. It was out of context, I think.
All right, inside jokes are not funny to people who aren't.
Sorry.
There were 100 people there that didn't know about it. Anyway, let me ask you this, Mitch, before we kind of jump off this topic. So, in regards to just DJ education in general, would you say that you're always going to be more of a proponent of the workshop versus the mega conference? I mean, do you feel like you always get more out of it? It's worth the money. It's worth your time. I mean, I know you've traveled all over the country and probably even Canada maybe for workshops, or maybe not.
Yeah, all over the country, certainly. Yes, I'm a big proponent of workshops, more so than the average conference. And even, I'll just delve a little bit into what we talked about last year for Midwest DJs Live.
Yeah.
And I spoke at Meeting Planners International Great Lakes Education Summit last year. And one of our keynote speakers there talked about tacit knowledge, and the whole thing of having something that people can break out into groups at their tables while a speaker is leading a session, to come away with a nugget, a piece of information, something they can use that's tangible for their business, and then apply to their business after they leave, and then also get back to the speaker with relevant content. So now it's not just the speaker talking head at the front of the room, but you've actually got 6 to 8, 10, whatever many tables you have in the room there collaborating and then giving that information to the speaker. And now everyone gets that in that session. So
he did that live, like that. They did that whole thing live like that.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So cool. That was part of the genesis for what we did last year at Midwest DJs Live, and the whole tacit knowledge statement that is kind of a punchline now, a joke for some of us. Again,
well, it became a running joke because you really emphasized it with all the speakers. But having sat in on that, I thought it was fantastic. I thought almost every seminar included that. We all, as speakers, we understood your emphasis on it. So we worked it in, and I thought it was a really great idea.
I think Midwest was transformed this past year, not only from that standpoint, but also from the production level that Jeffrey Sandler and his team brought to the table.
No doubt.
The new venue, I think, also was a big step up for us.
I'll be back. I was sad I wasn't there this year.
You will be back, Joe.
Yes.
I promise. I'm the vice president of education again for 11 Midwest DJs Live 11. So
do I need to call Bill Herman to call you to tell me that
No,
Bill Herman put in a good word.
I'll have my people talk to your people.
Exactly.
We'll figure something out.
All right. So let's skip over to the Gittimer stuff. Tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me a little bit about, how you became a Gittimer, certified sales trainer, and how you, I don't want to say became a disciple, but how you started following him in the first place, how you know about him, just, the short story of your relationship with him and how it has kind of, I guess I could say it's changed your life, or how it's made you a better.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, how it's made you a better DJ, salesman, everything.
I started following Jeffrey when I got in the car business back in, 2003 or something like that. And I read a few of his books, and people don't like to be sold, but they love to buy. That resonated with me. That quote from Jeffrey from the Sales Bible. And then moving on from there, I saw he offered this Gittimer Ace of Sales certification. You can go online and pay, at the time it was like, $200 or $400, something stupid like that. Take this test, and you can call yourself a Gittimer certified Ace of Sales. So around the same time, I think that I started writing for Disc Jockey News, I went ahead and, this can't be a PhDJ podcast without mentioning DJ Event Planner. So
that's right. We gotta give Troy a shout out.
There's a gratuitous. So around the same time I started writing for Disc Jockey News, I went ahead and started putting that at the end of my tagline, if you will. And that got me recognized, got me speaking engagements, among other things, relationships developed and things like that. So I started writing for Disc Jockey News. I didn't think about it. I think it was earlier than 2009, because my first speaking engagement ever was 2009 for Drax at the ADJA Chicago show in the summer of 2009. And I know I was writing for John Young before that. So
it's probably 07 or 08, something like that.
Yeah, 07, 08, probably somewhere in that ballpark, writing for John. So, and then Jeffrey, it was just one of those things where it just kind of snowballed, and he offered the Gittimer certified advisorship, if you will, advisor credential. And honestly, part of me wishes it came later in life, and part of me doesn't. I'm glad I jumped at it when I did, because when I did, it was like, $5,000 or something like that. And then, fly down, you have to pay all your own way and everything else.
It's down here, right?
But, yeah, down to Charlotte. Down to Charlotte, you're able to tour his offices. I got to also pay a little bit extra to do a private, not like private, more of a small group, like it was like 4 or 5 of us the next day, coaching session with Jeffrey. And he actually helped me hone the Roar seminar and develop that concept that I first gave at Mobile Beat Las Vegas in 2016. And I'm still going to do something else with that concept. I just haven't fully developed it. That full story has yet to be written. Ironically enough, some developments on that story just happened today on my phone.
Nice.
So we'll see.
You tease, Mitch. You tease.
Yes, you tease.
So we'll see where that happens down the line, and there'll probably be a Roar Part 2 at some point, or a full rendition, a book, or something of that nature. And so Jeffrey's really inspired me. I learned a lot through the Gittimer Certified Advisorship, becoming a Gittimer licensed trainer. There's been ups and downs with it, honestly. We've trained some great DJs through it. I did 3 workshops of Little Black Book of Connections workshops of Jeffries. And the only reason I chose that one instead is, frankly, because it's a half-day workshop. Most DJs are cheap, and they wouldn't pony up the money for a full-day workshop.
Let's be honest.
This is something Joe and I have discovered, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
So I did 3 Little Black Book workshops, and it's moved into more of an online module at this point. Something I kind of put on the back burner for the time being. There's been other developments and things like that going on in my life, family, and Australia, obviously, and other things. So kind of back burner for now, but I'm sure we'll pick up that ball and run with it again here in the near future.
So, Mitch, here's what I would say about you, and I think a lot of it has to do with the Gittimer background. I think you have carved out an incredible niche for yourself. And if our listeners aren't aware of you, they need to look you up online and follow you. You still do your live at 7:55 every morning, which is great. I think you have created the title for yourself as sales guru in our industry. I think when people think of multi-ops, they usually think of myself because I was one of the first out there promoting it. I think when people think about marketing in our industry, hopefully they think about my partner here, Joe, as well as KC Kokoris. I think those are probably the 2 DJ minds. But when people think about sales expert in the mobile DJ industry, I hope they think of you first, and I think they do. I think most people do.
Well, thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And, to be included on Joe's Selling the Music, to be mentioned by you guys here in the podcast, I do greatly appreciate it. I've studied sales, been a student all my life, and I will always be a student. One of my favorite quotes is, "You never arrive," and I think that is so important.
Great.
That you keep that learning mindset.
Totally agree. So along that line, as I held up earlier, I read this book. When did you publish this? And
2015.
So you gave me a copy. I even still have the you wrote a little sticky in there. And I read this on the beach.
I remember that. Yeah.
And there is a laugh out loud line. So would you do me a favor and set it up? Because I know I'll ruin it. But I was literally reading this on the beach and laughed. And Kelly was like, "What? Why? I thought you were reading a business book. Why are you cracking up? Set it up for us. Just can you don't mind, do you? Like it's not gonna pull the book.
No.
By the way, highly recommended. Seek it out. Mitch will tell you where you can find it, but first, give us that laugh out line. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do. I do know which one you're talking about. Yeah. So I find oftentimes when coaching DJs or going through their script or listening back to a sales call or looking at an email, they use the term, I's and we's a lot. And you need to change that to more use, format, if you will. And the line in the book is that if you do that, if you continue to use the I's and the we's too much, you end up wee-weeing all over your client.
I just love that line.
Funny. I do remember that, actually.
And by the way, I was telling Joe the other day that I always read with a highlighter. Yes. I read every book. And this is, I don't know if you can see this, but there's just a good example that I when I read, this is my bookmark. Whenever I read a book, I clip this in, and I always highlight stuff.
That blew my mind.
And for novels too. I mean, Joe said, well, business books, right? And I said novels too, because my mom taught me early on, if I read a word I'm not familiar with, circle it, look it up, write the definition in the margin. I still do that, although nowadays with a Kindle, you just press the word.
Right.
And get the definition.
But
it allows me to go back. What would you say, 2015? So 3 years later. And I don't have to reread the whole thing. I can flip through and look at the parts that I highlighted that really spoke to me. So I recommend this book for anyone in our industry, and I recommend reading it with a highlighter.
So
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
So where can people find it?
That's what I was going to say, too.
They can get it. They can get it from my website. If you go to tailoredsales.com, you can click the book link there and order it right there if you want to. Happy to autograph one. You want to hit me up personally, I'm happy to autograph one, get one out to you. Not a problem at all.
Yeah. By the way, Joe, I know we were going to tag team Mitch here and go back and forth, but he just mentioned. Another one.
Hey.
You just mentioned tailored. What's the website?
Tailoredsales.com.
Sales. And your company name is Tailored Weddings.
Yes.
I think that is an ingenious job of taking your own last name and twisting it and using it creatively in your company name. So kudos to you. I think that was a brilliant job.
Yeah, I like it a lot too.
Was that your own idea? Was that?
It was my idea. I was in Detroit. I worked at a company called Music Box Productions in Detroit from 96 to 02, almost into 03. And then I
mobile DJ.
Decided I want
DJ.
Yeah, mobile
okay.
DJing.
Right,
absolutely.
Okay.
I wore every hat for that company.
Yeah.
I was the office guy. I was the sales guy. I was the music director. Wore all kinds of hats, and didn't handle financials, but otherwise than that, I was kind of running the shop. And so I helped grow them from 3 systems up to 6 systems in the mid 90s or late 90s, I guess it was. And it was one of those things where I had an idea. My wife and I had our firstborn. We wanted to move closer to family. And so it was either, okay, I'm going to go to Maine or I'm going to go to the UP. And we had been driving to the UP for, the 6-hour drive. That was even longer drive, Mike. 6 hours, 6.5 from Detroit up here. And we just decided to raise our family up here. And Tailored Weddings originally it was Tailored Entertainment was the name of the company. And I just shifted to weddings. I believe it was a conversation. It was either Wed Guild or Think Tank boards, regards to that conversation of changing and making that switch to Tailored Weddings. And it might have been Marcello, I think, or you, Mike, or I forget who, but a couple of guys were like pushing me to make that move, and that was the right move, honestly, at the time.
Well,
So.
it impresses me probably more. I know I've shared this with you, Mitch, but my first partner at Elite was Eric Taylor. And he's left and he's moved on to, sales training and a number of motivational speaking. And so, and I don't think he's used his last name to kind of tweak it the same way you have. So when I first met you and saw that you had utilized your last name in such a way, I was like, that's pretty impressive. And it made me surprised that Eric missed that. He missed that opportunity. You know what I mean?
It was foresight, because I guess, I could have started with, Mitch's music or something like that, you know, but the reality I did have foresight back in 02, 03 when I was opening the company to say, I may want to sell this someday. I shouldn't have my first name tied to it.
And I always go back.
I did have that foresight.
I always go back and say the same thing. If because Eric started Elite and then I came in as a partner. If he had named it Eric Taylor Entertainment, I don't think I would have bought it from him. You know what I mean? Like I eventually bought his half out. But I don't think I would have done that if it was Eric Taylor Entertainment. So, you had the same foresight. And I recommend that to anyone. Joe has done the same thing. It used to be, right, Joe Bunn, but you've now changed it. So even though it's still your last name, it doesn't. Somebody could buy Bunn DJ Co. And I
definitely had to drop the Joe. There was a lot of confusion with those guys that opened those other 3 offices at first.
Right.
And Mitch, have you ever run into anybody else that's used that? I mean, not a DJ necessarily, but the word tailored, like how you kind of spell it?
I have, actually. There's a company out of Houston that called me and asked for permission. At that point, I think it was, oh gosh.
What did they do? Did they do DJing?
Yeah, I can't remember what they called themselves now. I think it was TAYLOR''D or something like that.
Gotcha. Right.
And then there's also a company out in England, I believe, that is also Tailored Weddings, believe it or not. So that's far enough where I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah, no, right, sure. There's a guy here, same last name, same spelling as yours, last name, and he's tailor-made, like the golf clubs, I think is how his is spelled. But anyway. One more thing I think that I wanted to touch on here, and I don't know much about the association. I'm a big proponent. In fact, I've had this conversation with 2 people that were kind of new to our market, and I think they were wanting marketing tips, and they were like, what's the number one thing I can do in this area so people know me? And I said, you need to be going to NACE, National Association of Catering and Events, and ALIA, International Live Events Association. We have chapters for both right here in our town. All the venues, vendors, people you need to meet are going to be there. But tell me a little bit about the National Speakers Association, like what it is, how it's helped you as an MC, as a business owner. Just give me a 30,000-foot overview of that kind of organization.
The National Speakers Association, I haven't really leveraged as much as I should have, if I can be completely honest.
Yeah.
I wish I could leverage more. Part of me, being so desolate up here, makes it hard to get to meetings. But that standpoint, I've gone to their winter conference last year, 2017. And ironically enough, that led me to Maria Mattarelli, inviting her to speak at our Midwest DJs Live conference. Seeing the speakers developing relationships, also attending the winter NSA meeting led me to the speaking engagement that I got for Meeting Planners International.
That's what I was going to ask you, if it led
this
to
past
gigs.
November.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I think it's with anything, Joe, you get out what you put in.
100%.
There's a favorite quote of mine. It's on my office. I don't know if Mike saw it when he was here, but it's Zig Ziglar. What you do off the clock determines how far you go on the clock. And I think that is so true. Yeah. So if I'm not getting as much out of it, that's on me.
Yeah.
I need to look in the mirror and be like, dude, if you want this, go for it.
Yep.
So, and again, we all have things happen in life and things like that. But I developed some relationships, some great speakers in Detroit area. That helped me also get a speaking engagement at ILEA in Detroit, along with, networking and things like that. So National Speakers Association for me has been great. I know it can be better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So a year from now, if we have you back on, you will have utilized it more. You'll have made an audio copy of the book.
Yes.
Roar Part 2. This dude has made a lot of promises on this.
Roar Part 2, I'm not going to say it's going to be done by next year. Who knows? I won't say it will, and I won't say it won't. Audiobook, right. I will commit to that. How's that?
Hey, you have 24 hours on a flight to Australia to get a lot of stuff done.
Oh, you ain't kidding.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
That's
when I agreed to that flight, I was like,
yeah, I know.
How many movies can you watch on a flight?
How much Xanax and red wine can you take?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Screw the movies. I'm talking about the Xanax and the wine and the cocktails. That's what I'm talking
Mike,
about.
do you have anything else you want before we let Mitch
No,
kind
I
of
think
plug?
That's it. I want to thank Mitch again. Thank you
100%.
so much for being our first guest.
My man.
And adding to our podcast. And I will see you next month in LA, right, Mitch?
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Right. I will not. But Mitch, anything you do want to plug or mention? Any places you're going to be? We talked about Australia. Any other speaking engagements this year? Any other DJ conferences you're going to make?
So the other one, I guess I will say, of course, Australia is coming up. My workshop is August 6th, leading off the conference on August 7th. I'll also be speaking, and I'm actually helping to run the education on the Mobile Beat Cruise.
Oh, cool.
And
that's right.
It's coming up November 4th to November 11th, sailing out of New Orleans. I don't know if there's a better town to sail out of, honestly.
It's a
and
wild place.
Have fun at before you take off on a cruise ship. But New Orleans is it. We're on the Carnival Dream, one of the latest ships out for Carnival, just refurbished. And looking forward to 7 days on an exotic Western Caribbean run. Get some vacation time, get some education time. That, honestly, is what I love about the smaller conferences. Not that Vegas and AC aren't great. They are in their own right. But Midwest DJs Live, Armed DJs, Mobile Beat Cruise, allows you an opportunity to get a little tighter, get a little closer, network, break bread, have a cocktail at the bar, hammer out some stuff. And it affords opportunities that the others just frankly don't, because there's that draw of Vegas or AC at night, so.
Fantastic. Mitch, thank you so much for being on. Mike, any parting words?
No, I just want to thank Mitch. I think it was a great episode, so thank you very much. Oh, and look, Shay wants to.
What's up,
Hey, Shay?
Those kisses are for you, Mitch.
Thank you guys for listening. As always, subscribe on iTunes. Leave us a review. We appreciate y'all, and we will be back with another episode next week. Peace.
See ya.
Ciao.